to another haunting episode of Believe in Broncos on the Believe Network, sponsored by FanDuel Sportsbook, your home for everything sports betting. I am Patrick Coyote. That is Bri Maestas. We are the hosts of this program. Bri, Halloween, your favorite holiday is tomorrow. Broncos playing a spooky game down in Houston this weekend against the 3-4 Texans. Broncos riding a 5-game win streak, but they're running into the ghoul that is the Houston Texans defense. First and foremost, Bri, it's so good to see you. How are you doing?
It's good to see you too. And Halloween doesn't have to be my favorite holiday if I'm spooky all the time. So I can carry that throughout the year on a 365-day basis.
It's so true. Bri, this is a massive matchup, and I don't think it's one that's necessarily getting the hype and the respect that it deserves. But DeMeco Ryans is currently operating the number one ranked defense in the NFL by all the stats and the metrics and everything like that. Team is 3-4, like I said, but they have fought in some really close games. All 4 of their losses have been one-score losses. So this is a team that's still battling. CJ Stroud is continuing to work through a new offense with new, younger weapons. But they've run into some roadblocks. In this episode, we're going to go over the keys for the Broncos to win this matchup. That could be one that we talk about later in the year as being a key win during the season. What the Broncos need to do offensively and defensively to win this game. We'll cover some FanDuel Fan Bets, and we'll talk some Halloween haunts for the Denver Broncos. But first and foremost, Bri, this Broncos defense is going to go up against CJ Stroud, who they've seen before. Sean Payton has called some pretty good games against CJ Stroud, but this defense is going to have to be on a different level, considering that Patrick Surtain is going to be out for at least, our sources are saying, at least 3 games. That is the prognosis. Jordan Schultz reported 4 to 6 weeks. Could be around that 4-week timeline, considering the bye is in there. But Pat will not be playing in this game, nor the Raiders game, and most likely not the Chiefs game. The pec strain turns out to be a little bit of a tear in the pec minor muscle. That's not a fun injury, let me tell you. But Broncos defense still has to play a really tough game coming up this weekend. Bri, what do the Broncos need to do in this game without Pat Surtain to secure the victory?
Well, outside the constraints of the injury, I think Patrick Surtain could go in and play with one hand tied behind his back, but that is not something that you want to do considering the injury prognosis. But I do think that the Broncos are going to have to find a way to work around that missing piece, simply because when they've had to do it in the past, even for the short term, it has been a little ugly. And I think that this is a different team with a different versatility. We've been talking about it since the offseason and what Vance Joseph is able to do. And in my heart of hearts, I hope they don't change what they've been doing. They simply move and slot up guys to the next guy available. So Riley Moss is going to have a large task at hand. And I do think that's going to show a little bit more of the bending when it comes to the CB play, because Riley Moss is great, but he is no Patrick Surtain. So it will be a little bit of an onslaught, especially because you already mentioned it, probably not available for the Chiefs game. And that's the one that we're really worried about here. So in the time being, the team and the secondary has a chance to build up some strength as they head towards that part of their schedule. It's going to be a test it and play it situation. So we won't know exactly how that works out, but I have a little bit of faith, right? If we ask about confidence levels, I think if you would ask me to start this season, it would have been a little bit lower, but I think I trust what Vance Joseph is doing with this team and what he's able to do with the moving pieces. I wouldn't get too caught up in the idea of rotating out players and seeing, if Jahdae Barron can go ahead and sit in that position. I think what you want to do is is keep an eye on KAD as the next guy to really take that position, and he's going to get targeted a lot. So there's going to be a little bit of a test by fire, a trial by fire. And I think that's what I'm looking forward to. It's nice to go up against this offense because I think CJ Stroud is going to be tested as well for his ability to air it out. I don't think he's going to have a whole lot of time to make that an issue for the Broncos defense, but that is if everything goes to plan. So without that, I think we're going to see what this team is actually made of, because I've seen it put that this game is supposedly a trap game. And I think if to start the season, there was a little bit of a consultation of whether or not the Texans would be where they want to be. And I think DeMeco Ryans has them firing on all cylinders. And it's a very interesting matchup as you have Sean Payton against DeMeco Ryans, because we all know who is up for that coaching position down in the cycle. So now these teams both have the maturity of their new eras with their organizations, and it's coming to a head here in week 9.
Yeah, the Broncos do find themselves in a bit of an odd situation, especially at that cornerback spot. And you mentioned KAD being the guy that's probably going to step up, and fans had some interesting things to say about KAD in last week's performance when he came in to relieve Surtain. But I'm pretty confident in what KAD can do, and he surprised me a lot last season, just how he handled certain situations as a rookie. This is going to be a pretty big situation. No Nico Collins for the Texans, which is a good thing. Riley Moss is not going to have to worry about guarding someone like Nico Collins in this game, but the Texans still have a bevy of young receivers that I'm pretty excited about as far as like their production in the league. So this is still going to be a very good test for KAD and for Jahdae Barron as he continues to see his role develop. But I think overall for this defense, you can't let the level of play drop just because Pat is not back there. I know it sucks. You want to have that guy out there. He is a shutdown player, but the show must go on. And so we can't just let one guy dictate how we play going forward. This is going to be a very tough game. Defense is going to have to get some stops. Offense is going to have to do their job. But you were saying, Bri, before the show, this team has to bring the pressure against the Texans offense. What does that look like for you? And is there any specific player that you have in mind that needs to be like the key guy that the Broncos use in creating pressure against CJ Stroud?
In my bold predictions to start the week, I wanted Nick Bonito to rack up more sacks. Obviously, the Broncos are well after that NFL league record, and I think they're going to close in again in this game. I think multiple opportunities for defensive players to rack up sacks will be available in this game, simply because their main objective is going to be making CJ Stroud's life hell, and they have to get there, right? I think Nick Bonito has the ultimate task at hand here, especially because what the expectations are is he's going to be able to expose the liability that are the tackles there. So the duo of Cooper are going to be able to get home fast. And I think they're going to be the momentum swing here for this Denver Broncos team. And that's what they're good at. If you are excelling at one thing in general, and you can take the tackle position for this Texans offense that seems to be a little bit depleted and a bit of a liability, and you take that to the next level by being aggressive, which Vance Joseph loves to do. This is the prime opportunity for Nick to have at least 2 sacks on the day, and that's taking the low on that one. So that is what my key of the game is, because pressure without anything is going to be what takes this defense to the next level. Plus, they're just hitting their stride. Their comfort level to start the beginning of the season, that was them warming up. And so my hope and prayers is that that's what takes this game to the next level.
Yeah, well, I mean, this offensive line for Houston has gone through a bit of a makeover. They're starting a rookie at left tackle after trading Laramie Tunsil during the offseason. That was a shocking move, honestly, but one that I guess was better for the locker room rather than the field. So it's still quite an interesting unit. is what I would say. But there's plenty of opportunities for Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito to get after CJ Stroud. Stroud is not the twitchiest pocket maneuver. He's not, he's not your Patrick Mahomes. He's not your Bo Nix. I wouldn't even put him in the same like category like that as Justin Herbert. But what I will say is like he does navigate the pocket well, like a la your goat, who's not, he was not the flashiest mover as well, but he could still maneuver within the pocket. I think CJ Stroud does a really good job of that. But if you put pressure on him and you put the right amount of pressure on him, you can still get to him. I think I said in our last show, Vance Joseph should be watching what Mike McDonald did to CJ Stroud when, the Seahawks played the Texans, and kind of just base your game plan around that. Like squeeze everything out of them, put a lot of pressure on him, but like you don't have to bring 5, 6, 7 guys every time to put pressure on them. I think they're going to be able to get pressure with 4 or 5 guys consistently. But Bonito and Cooper coming off the edge, they're playing really well. I would love to see Bonito get back in the sack column. But I also want to see Jonathan Cooper just continue to be an impact freak athlete out there on the edge. He is doing such an amazing job, and he's kind of pushing around these offensive tackles. So
he is, but the unfortunate part of that, Pat, I just want to point it out, is it gets held at an extreme rate. So if you're getting beat there, I think that you're going to see that there's a little more of a tussle. It's going to be gritty.
Yeah, this is going to be a fired up game because I feel like this Texans team under DeMeco Ryans has a completely different attitude, which is good. It's a good thing. Like don't get it twisted. It's a good thing, but this Broncos defense also carries a very similar attitude to their defensive coordinator, but also their head coach. I heard Sean Payton talk about how Jonathan Cooper is a guy who is ready to be a champion. And like, that got me thinking of like, what does that mean? What does that mean from like the coach to player aspect? Right. And I think like for me specifically, that points to the coach kind of like really, really being a part of these guys' day in, day out. Hey, how you feeling? What are we working on this week? What's going to take us to that next step? It's just super involved in what they're doing. And that tends to, it tends to take itself, like it takes a form on the field. Right. And we saw that in New Orleans. We saw it when Sean was down in New Orleans, and that defense was just mean. They were mean and they were nasty and they would get after people. And yes, I understand there was maybe a little added juice to it, but it's still like that identity takes itself from your coaching staff, from the locker room culture. So this is going to definitely be a knock it out Dukes type of game.
And I think the natural intensity of Cooper just lends to that, right?
Yeah.
Like you just get that naturally.
He's insane, allegedly. Allegedly. Bri, while we're on the topic of defense, and we were talking before the game or before the show about the keys to the game, and something that I noticed in each of the Texans' losses, they had 3 out of their 4 losses, they had rushed for less than 100 yards. So what does that say? That means that this Broncos defense has to key in on stopping the run game. If you can stop the run game, then you're going to force CJ Stroud to be in more of those situations, where they're behind the sticks and having to and having to try and get some chunky yardage off of plays. And I feel like that's where Denver's defense kind of thrives, is forcing quarterbacks to be in those situations. But I think second key for me is stop the Houston run game. How can they stop this run game and force CJ Stroud into more of these situations?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of it comes to the discipline, right? You got to control the gap, and I think where the Broncos do well is executing on their fronts and maintaining that integrity. They have to force a lot of the running backs to either wait or hesitate, make a mistake, and I think that at the end of the day, it's the suboptimal lanes that allow for short yardage there. Because at the end of the day, you're going to get run on. It's the approximation of like how badly are they going to do so. Now, in the years and iterations prior to this season, I think the Broncos were well known for their inability to stop the run. And this season is different because their elite run defense numbers and tackling efficiency really have lowered that down. And I still think we've talked about it, the liabilities that we see in the middle of the field, but I think they have the foundation right now that lets them stick to their run defense principles. So should they limit Houston's run game is really the factor here. You're not going to shut it down completely, nor do I think that's actually what you're aiming for. When you're looking at how you want your offense to function and you want your team to function in all three phases, I think that goes and bodes well for the defenses, is that you're trying to create balance with what Houston is able to do. So making Stroud entirely uncomfortable leads to kind of the inability to find any momentum or run distribution. And then it takes them completely out of sync. So they don't have the ability to really lean on that game to allow the offense to continue to move the sticks. So I think they have an optimistic lean here when you think of what the defense is able to do. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to be shocked if there's a break through the middle. It's just part of what the Broncos are working with when they're a little off balance.
Yeah, they'll give up some big plays here and there. I mean, that's going to happen when you take gambles, when you blitz as much as you do, when you play as aggressive as you do. You're going to give up some big plays, and that's going to happen. It's just a matter of how you bounce back. And I feel like this defense has always done a good job of bouncing back. I mean, you look at their red zone production
Absolutely.
this season defensively. I mean, teams will get down in the red zone on them, but they are not scoring touchdowns if they get down there. They are not scoring touchdowns. Make sure the kicker is warming up on the sideline. Make sure the PAT unit is ready to go, because likely they're running out there to kick for three. So it's ultimate like bend don't break. But yeah, I think this defense is going to do more than enough. I mean, this offensive line for the Texans doesn't really. They're not all just not all that impressive. They're still building. I think they're still building chemistry, especially with a rookie at left tackle. Like, that's a big ask for a rookie. But I think this is going to be a good opportunity for Zach Allen and DJ Jones and Malcolm Roach and those guys up front, especially John Franklin Myers, who's been really upsetting, and Uwazurike. My goodness, he has been a force inside. He has been another big guy. So us asking the question, why in the world are they keeping 7 interior defensive linemen to start the year? I think it's been answered, because the run defense is pretty dang good.
It is. And I think that it just bodes well for this matchup, right? Because the Texans offense and through the middle is a little bit, we'll see how much the Punisher happens. And I think you've really got a battering ram opportunity here.
Speaking of, big guys in the middle, right? Our last key for this game, Bri, on the offensive side of the ball for the Broncos. This is a Texans team. Yes, they are ranked first in the league. They're in the top for a lot of categories. Very stout run defense. They stack the box quite a bit. Really good back end defense as well. This is not a defense that will allow a lot of big runs. This is not a defense that will allow an effective run game. They are definitely trying to stop the run, and that's something that the Broncos have been really, really strong at offensively this season. One of the top in the league, top run games in the league, and that is big thanks in part to Zach Strief and those 5 hog mollies up front, who have been doing a great job this season in the run game. This is going to be a trench battle, Bri.
Yeah.
You're talking about it. This is going to be a just smash mouth type of game with their guys versus our guys. Who do you see winning this trench battle, and how can the Broncos come away with that victory and that key?
Well, we already know that the Texans' defensive front is going to be trying the same exact version of what the Broncos' defense is going to do, and that's unsettle Bo Nix and get him completely out of rhythm. But if the Broncos are able to start their run game early and really lean into that, I could see that posing a problem for this Texas defense. Not simply because they're not strong through the run game. I think they're good at limiting potential, but I do think that there is the opportunity to clean up protections there. It's going to offer the Houston's an ability to commit to the front line more, which can open up pass protection and play action. So I think there's like an exploitable piece of the Houston's run defense. And at the end of the day, I think that's where the Denver's O-line can get a good push and create that lane for those backs. So I'm hoping that the run game gets an opportunity to start strong and they don't try to get away from that, because I think what we've seen in the past is maybe a trend to shy away from maybe not what's working yet, but could work in the future. And I think that's a really hard opportunity at game management when you look at strategy of, do you commit to what your initial strategy was, or do you have to make an adjustment there later on? And I hope that they start early on often and that's able to pay off big throughout the game. Because I agree with you. I think the game's going to be close and it's going to come down to inches, and those inches are started in the trenches, and it's going to be a battle of wits. It's going to say, are we exploiting the right inconsistency here? The Broncos are also dealing with it, right? As they have Alex Belcheski in there. Not saying he's a liability necessarily, but he is new to this line. He's holding up well, but I think I can guarantee where the Texans are going to go to cause some chaos and disruption. So I'm hoping that Denver can kind of counter that, right? If you have a counter strike for what you're dealing with in the trenches, then it's more of a power game and a testament of wills, which I think is right up Sean Payton's alley. And I feel strong and confident about it.
Yeah, this is a defense where, this is a defense that they're facing where teams do not run the ball outside on these guys. The least amount of outside runs against in the league. Broncos are actually third in that category. And the majority of teams are running inside on the Texans. And that could be because they have very good edge setters, so they don't want to try and get outside. But I think that the Broncos have, like you were saying, they have a good counter in that, in Mike McGlinchey, in Garrett Bowles, and some of the perimeter run game that Sean Payton has in his wheelhouse. But I think they can also find success running the ball inside. Sean Payton can look at, teams are running the ball 62% of the time inside on this defense, and they're not getting a whole lot of success. Well, why is that? What can we do to, find that one play or that one scheme where we can break off big chunks against this defense, or we can find something where we can open up the passing game because of how they line up in a certain front. This team does not stack the box all that often. So that means that they are just playing very sound and fast and effective defense. So this is going to be a really tough matchup offensively for Sean Payton, because he's going to have to figure out what does this team do so well to where they can just play in base and not stack the box and still be so effective. What can we do to find the one hole or two holes that we can exploit? So
confidence, get Bo rolling, up tempo as much as possible.
No look passes. No look. If we go up 3 scores, if we can go up 3 scores and you feel confident in whatever scheme, fine, that's okay. But if you do that shit again on the second pass of the game, you're done. You're finished. We're not winning this one. So I feel like Sean just needs to find, one or two big explosive plays where it'll put us on the board, and then we can just let the defense pin their ears back and go after it. Bri, let's go into the FanDuel Fan Bets for this week. We're going to play a little game. Shout out to the sponsor of the show, FanDuel Sportsbook. Make sure that you head on over there, throw some money on this game. The Broncos currently 1.5 point favorites. Vegas is
Cool.
also very confident that this is going to be a knock 'em out type of game. So let's go real quick here. We're gonna go over under here, Bri, and I'm gonna give you the bets. I'm gonna give you the props, and you're gonna tell me whether you're taking the over or the under. Here we go.
Okay, let's go.
Bo Nix pass attempts 34.5 over or under.
It needs to be under, but I think it's going to go over because simply it's going to be a testament, and they're going to have to run some funny, I don't know, like a sweep to get it done.
Okay. CJ Stroud passing yards 225.5 over under.
If we've allowed CJ Stroud to have 225 passing yards, I think that this game is absolutely over with. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it means they're having output that is well beyond the constraints of what this Broncos defense allows quarterbacks to get away with. So it's got to be under because I don't think he's going to have the time to throw the ball for that many yards. I believe too much in this Broncos defense.
Yeah, all 4 of their losses this season, CJ Stroud has thrown for less than 200 yards. So I am also with you. I'm taking the under there. Last one, J.K. Dobbins. Rushing yards, 60.5 over under.
You know, that seems really low because I was looking at a number about 75, but then we talked about how efficient this Texans run defense seems to be. I still think he's going to break one for a long yardage that'll up his average there, and I'm going to go the over on J.K. Dobbins rush yards.
Yeah, I think if this game goes the way that I think it'll go, J.K. Dobbins is probably getting north of where he's at. So, he's usually getting around 15 a game. I think it's probably going to be more towards 18, 20. So I'm going to go with the over there. And last thing we're going to do here, Bri, and then we'll get out of here.
All right.
It's Halloween. It's spooky season. I want you to think of one Bronco player, and based on their play style, what do you think their Halloween costume should be?
I didn't miss the caveat that it had to be akin to their play style, but I think that I was going in the most acknowledgeable trait, which I think I'm going to go Zach Allen as the abominable snowman. Stature and just pure prowess aside, I think you have to say that he is, downhill, uphill, mountain, snow, don't matter, just going to be a wrecking ball. I was also going to say Talanoa Hufanga as a wrecking ball because I just a pendulum out there all across the field, wiping people out, and how he has not been flagged for anything outside of just maybe a couple of big hits. A couple.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say Miley Cyrus on the wrecking ball is what Talanoa Hufanga's costume would be. That would be a good one. I got a couple. Okay, so I said my one from before the show, Sean Payton as the head coach from The Waterboy, with the Offensive Football for Dummies book. Just would be ironic and hilarious. But I was thinking of another one. Well, now I have 2 in my head. Okay, the first one, Nick Bonito as Freddy Krueger, because
you're so good at this. 1, 2, Benito's coming for you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. He's in the quarterback sniper, like free pub, Nick Bonito, free pub. And then Bo Nix as Harry Houdini, because somehow against the Giants he pulled a rabbit out of his hat and won the football game. So I
love how it was Houdini because it's just a classic bit, but there's so many other magicians out there. You're like, it's not David Copperfield's too flashy. Houdini is the master of escape. So I like the lean. Yeah,
there you go.
Absolutely.
That is going to do it for our game preview show. We will be back next week to talk about the Broncos and Texans game. Make sure that you subscribe to the show on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. Make sure you follow Bri and I on social media at BriMasis303, at Patrick Coyote, and follow at Believe Network as well. We will see you next week after the game. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.